Hi, I'm Lisa Singer. I am Media Post event editorial manager, and this is Insider Summit BTS, where I get to sort of pull back the curtain on some of the most influential women marketers today. And with me is Sara Johnson, and she is the integrated marketing manager at the Mall of America. Hey, Sara.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you for having me.
Oh no, I'm so excited to have you. I mean, first of all, how fun, Mall of America. I mean, that's like must be like if you get to visit a lot, at least if you get to go there, it's like playtime every day, or just another adventure after the other.
It certainly is. And I mean, we're in spring break mode right now, so it is just craziness, but in the best way.
That sounds awesome. I know definitely, at least school time wise, we were always hitting the mall whenever. Let's go get some shopping done. But I actually, and I, we did see each other recently, just last
Mhm.
month for the retail summit.
Yeah,
And again, I always say, like, as much as I love to hear all your marketing strategies and what you're doing, this is fun to me to really sort of get to know you personally and to see how you got to where you are and what inspires you and all of that. So I appreciate you doing this.
absolutely. I'm very excited.
Well, great. Well, I mean, we have to stick with kind of the mall theme for at least a minute, in terms of, as I said, as high school, always going to the mall. I mean, I still go to the mall, obviously, but high school was definitely something where that's where you and your friends hung out or went to.
Mhm.
And aside from, needing to go back to school shopping and all of that kind of thing, was there anything for you? Now, so because part of what you do is not only the marketing for the mall itself, but also you help promote the retailers within the mall. So, were there any promotions that were done, say, when you were in high school, college, that would have? Is there some that you can remember in particular that drove you to go? We got to go to the mall today
Mhm.
for this.
There weren't any promotions specifically that I can think of, but I can remember specific mediums. So magazines, as an example, I grew up in Des Moines, Iowa. So I feel like it was one of those things. The mall was it was the place. It was where to go. It was where all your friends hung out. And even if you weren't going for something specific or you weren't shopping, it was just a place to walk around, pass the time. But thinking through what might have influenced me, it wasn't a promotion, but it was magazines. So I feel like the magazines always inspired me to want to go to the mall based on the product. So I received a lot of the teenage magazines.
Mhm.
And I can't remember any top of mind, but there were so many that would come in that were just direct mailers that made me want to go see what was happening at the time. And which the irony is a lot of those trends are back. So it's kind of funny to think through and see what I see on property at this point that I was being influenced by when I was younger too. And TV shows, of course, those always made me feel
So
like,
basically, it was more about finding the product, like whatever something, a new outfit or new trend in pants or whatever it may be, or something that was a must-have in your mind when you saw it in the magazine. Then that would be inspire you. Okay, let's go to the mall so I can go buy this.
absolutely. Yes, very product driven. And then, of course, it was just fun to pass the time once I actually got there too. So
Yeah.
a little
Well,
bit of
all
both.
right. So, and I'm curious if it changed when you go to the mall. Obviously, you have to go to where all the little shop, all the not the shops, the restaurants are, and so like it's it's been mostly famous for kind of I don't want to say the word junk food, but
Yeah.
like that kind of food where it's just fun. It's the pretzels or the Chinese food or like something where it's quick to get and it's a good excuse to sort of eat a little bit less than healthy. Although now I think they're expanding so much more. But was there a go-to for you that you had to get when you went to the mall?
Oh my gosh, Auntie Anne's pretzels, which still exists. The line is out the door. That was
No, it
always
always
my
is.
go-to. So good. It's so funny that you say that too, because I feel like though it's known for junk food, but we've tried healthy and or health and wellness driven options, and people want their Cinnabon. People want to come here and they want to treat themselves, and I feel like I did the same thing. So the pretzels were always my go-to.
I know it's funny, like everyone tries to, even like McDonald's, okay, let's take the fat out of the fries or do, like all it's like, but you're this is the kind of food you are. When I want my healthy food, I'll go to get healthy food or I'll make it at home. When I want the good fries and the,
Yes, you are going with a
yeah,
mission
the
and
Cinnabon,
you're not going to sacrifice.
don't mess with it. This is what I want.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Totally agree. Well, all right. Now, getting into your career a little bit, you did start on the agency side, and then you went. Speaking of health food, you went to what was it, Crisp and Green,
Yep.
and now here you are at Mall of America. So, when you first started out, were you thinking you wanted that agency route, and then it sort of evolved, or talk about that?
Yeah, so starting at a digital, so it was a digital marketing, but also web development. So it really gave me a nice holistic scope of what it looks like as a business to launch not only your website, but then also what does digital marketing look like layered with that. And so it was a really great building opportunity for me to not only get just the baseline of what does paid media from a digital standpoint look like, but then also working with those, not tenants per se, but at the time it was clients, um, and making those relationships, which made me even more excited to then after leaving want to go internal. So I worked on a lot of smaller clients, which were really lovely, mom and pop businesses, so on and so forth, which I think that after leaving the agency made me really intrigued to want to go more that startup route. So Crisp and Green at the time was new to the Twin Cities, and I would consider them more of a startup at that moment. And during my duration of digital marketing as their manager, it was a really great fun opportunity to launch franchising with them. So we franchised as a business when I was with them. So at the time we were local to Minneapolis, but then we expanded and now had locations in Texas and some other Midwest locations. So it was fun to be with them on that journey from a startup, getting that experience for myself too, knowing that that's more of a passion of mine, learn. And then of course, when Mall of America comes and knocks, you're not going to say no.
Right.
So
No, I
another
don't think so.
And so I had worked on some of those retail driven clients too at the agency. So everything kind of came full circle of what started as, just really good experience and getting my foot in the door led into wanting to be more passionate in that startup realm or those mom and pops, but then of course led into what is my ultimate passion, which is retail. So I feel like everything kind of has come full circle in some one way or another.
Right. Well, and also I'm curious in the sense of, because you do wear a lot of hats at what you're doing at Mall of America. I mean, not only because it is such a huge, company in terms of but you have all these different retailers who have different needs. In general, yes, you are the full scope of the mall, but you also have to keep all of definitely not mom and pop shops, but every individual shop kind of in mind to what works best for, whether it's promotion or whatever it may be that you're trying to do. um, those earlier skills, working with different clients, working them with a startup, and even just understanding, a lot of people, like, if you asked me to try to put together a web page, and that's, I tried once, it took a while. It actually didn't really happen. So it's still kind of, I have it reserved. But all I'm saying is you have all of these skills, and then now you're in a situation where you are having to deal with so many different voices,
Yeah.
but also then the main voice, which is Mall of America. So
Yeah.
did all of that help you to kind of juggle and be able to integrate all of this into your work today?
Absolutely. I feel like the way that you just painted the picture was something that I never, I guess, really thought of in that format, that it really has come full scope. And in a way, Mall of America, the way that we look at ourselves, similar to what you just mentioned, is, we advertise our hub as a whole. So, come to the property, that's one message. We have, of course, our attraction and theme park, which is a whole nother layer. But we are, an agency, if you will, on behalf of our tenants and making sure that they're successful and that we can get traffic into their doors and have them generate sales. So it really is that full scope. And I love the way that you just painted the picture, because that's exactly right. Everything I've done up until this point has really set me up for success to be able to look at it in this format more holistically. And it's so fun. It's never
Yeah.
boring, to say the least.
I would definitely think that. I mean, and I have to bring up, you just mentioned the amusement park. Nickelodeon Universe is, I mean, that's just crazy that there's an amusement park in the mall. And it just adds all, like, I think you guys have what, like 40 million people a year going to the mall, which is more than Disney World.
Uh-huh.
So that's really impressive. But I
Uh-huh.
have to ask you, when we're speaking of fun and amusement parks,
Mhm.
a Nickelodeon universe, but
Uh-huh.
what is your favorite amusement park? And what do you do?
That's a great question. And I would say, okay, I might disappoint you. I don't necessarily have a favorite amusement park. Of course, Nickelodeon is one of
Sorry,
them. I
it's
see it on a
really
daily
going
basis.
to all these questions.
But I am an experiential person. I'll go about it in the angle from experiences, because that's what Nickelodeon is. You go in and it's just that shock and awe. I mean, it's 7 acres. It's huge. We have over 27 rides. It's just an amazing experience. And I think that though I'm not a theme park person per se, I do love experiencing new things. So what is that shock and awe for me? And that comes from like, I mean, over the last couple of years, going to traveling a lot and going to different breweries, restaurants, concerts, really trying to get that shock and awe in different ways. As a roller coaster for me, that's not it, but
Like,
I
you
love
don't
it for
like
other people.
the roller coasters, no, or just it's not like they're okay, or is it just no, I don't do roller coasters?
I think that I'm okay with it. I'm not going to seek it out, but if I happen to be in the experience, I will do it.
See, I love the like to me, I am very reactive in the sense like I get so afraid, but it's a good fear, like going down and
Adrenaline.
yes, as long as there's a pause. Like there was one that I did, and I'm not going to say the name, but I literally was like, I don't really post on Facebook. I literally took a picture and said, never again. Like I was nauseous, petrified. There was never one stop. It was like just consistent, consistent. I got off and I'm like, this was the worst thing ever. So I don't like that. But other ones, I mean, people really think like people have said to me when I get off, they're like, I thought someone's being killed because I scream so much. But it's fun. Like I love it. So I'm a roller coaster girl. I definitely, as long as you give me the little pause and then you go again.
I love that. That's so funny. And
And,
they are a great time. It gets your adrenaline going. And then, yes, you're so excited getting off.
yep. And again, you can have your junk food at
Yes.
the theme park as well. So that's the good excuse when you go there. All the what's it called? The goes in a circle in pink. Cotton
I-
candy.
Yes, yes. Yeah. All the cotton candy Dippin' Dots. Oh my gosh, the options are endless.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, I have to ask you, we have to get back to actual serious stuff here. I'm a very serious interviewer. Um,
Uh-huh.
just in terms of, you talked a little bit about the trajectory of your career and where you're at, but was there anything, and actually this doesn't even necessarily have to be a career question, but just was there ever a time that something happened and it seemed like the worst thing, but
Mhm.
then it ended up being really the best thing? It was like, that silver lining I like to ask.
Mhm. Yeah, there's never been a moment. I feel very lucky in my career up until this point that the stars have aligned in different ways, and the timing was ultimately perfect as I've gone from one thing to the next in my experiences. But I will say one thing and a caveat that I found really interesting through my career to this point is that though come on to a company for marketing, my extroverted personality has been people want to cater to me into the sales role. And it's a very interesting navigation that I've had multiple times now at different companies of just because I'm an extrovert doesn't mean that I want to necessarily be in sales, but it makes me question, or it has made me question, am I in the right area? Should I be pursuing marketing or would I be more successful in the sales space? And my mentality always is I'm more passionate about marketing. I think it's interesting. It's consistently evolving, especially through the pandemic. We've learned so much and people have pivoted so much. That my mentality is sales will always be there in some format. I could come back to it, but at this point, marketing is my passion. And I want to continue to, ride the ride and see how that goes. And at a certain point, maybe I'll change my mind and sales could be it. But I would say that's been a really fascinating experience for me through my career up until this point. And has created, just some good questions.
Well, I think also, I mean, and you make a good point in the sense that the fact that marketing or someone can be that like engaging and be able to interact with people, and it becomes like you'd be a good salesperson. Like people say that because obviously people will want to listen to what you're saying and they'll engage with you. And I've been told to say like that can be a sales technique. And
Mhm.
I hate to use technique because that's just who you are. But I'm just saying sales does not necessarily have to mean what we think of sales. Sales
Absolutely.
can also be, I find my issue cause I agree with what you're saying that I've never really wanted to cross over to sales because
Mhm.
I don't think I'm a good closer. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? Like in the sense of, okay, you want what you want.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it needs to evolve. And so I wonder if that does limit, I don't know if you feel that way too as
Mhm.
part of it, but does that limit someone's capability of being a successful salesperson? Would you think?
That's a good question. I guess I've never pursued it that much, but it's interesting hearing your perspective of closing or being a closer as your caveat. I I've always thought about sales in a way of I don't want to feel like I'm selling somebody. I want to feel like I'm passionate about what it is and therefore it naturally sells itself. So that's been one piece that has always, made me not want to go down that route. But on the flip side, kind of to what you're saying too, is I think sales has evolved in the way we communicate with each other. And it has become a lot more natural and organic in the way that we talk, which I appreciate. So I'm curious to see how sales continues to navigate, but I do think we have this harsh, sales is just kind of a harsh word in the way that we think about it. But I'm curious to see how it evolves. And
Yeah, no, and even like when I say the closing, it's more like you said, you're passionate about something, you want to share it and talk about it, but then the ultimate goal is that sale. And so you
yeah,
can sit there and talk about it, and then when you finish, and then I just stare at you. So you
yeah.
kind of have to say something like, "So you interested?" You know, like
Well,
I
the
don't
next step in that liaison
and,
piece.
like, I feel
Yes.
like I've been only nice to you because I'm trying to get you to do this. And
Yeah.
that's what bothers me about, and I know that's a wrong mentality because I talk with so many people who are in sales and they just truly believe in it and they think that they're
Yeah.
giving something, making your life better by getting
Absolutely.
it. So,
Uh-huh,
and I get that reasoning. It's hard for me to get past that. So I was just
I
curious
agree.
if that was part of it for you. So, I mean, it sounds like, I mean, now working with the mall though, like as you said, Mall of America, you are the hub and you
Yeah.
have all of these, like for someone who is interested in doing that, someone just starting out and they, look at what you're doing and say, "Hey, I want to be a part of Mall of America. I want to be a part of what you're doing."
Yeah.
What is it that you find is the skill that you utilize the most? You know what I mean? In the sense that what makes you be able to be more successful there, aside from obviously all of the experience, we talked about that, how it led to this, but
Yeah.
just is there a certain skill set that you would look for from someone, just coming out of school and talking to you? How would you mentor them?
Absolutely. I think there's two components that really come to mind. And I think so Mall of America is just so unique because we're such an anomaly. And to the point you made a little bit earlier, I do wear a lot of different hats. And so flexibility and being fluid is so crucial in the day to day. We come in, we think that we're going to be going one avenue with our day, and then all of a sudden something happens, say something at the theme park broke, or, the ticket site is down, whatever it may be, impacts our day. And then you have to pivot and you have to be fluid and you really have to be flexible with all of that. So when I think of young professionals coming into the market, my thought process is always being very fluid, being able to be comfortable with change, and knowing that your day could just turn on its head, and that's okay. You've learned something from the day, you've overcome it, and then the next day it's fresh, it's new, it's different. But also being driven. I think being driven is a big piece of that puzzle. Is being curious. Um, and they all kind of funnel together. And those were I would say three. I said three different things at this point. So uh, I think those are important.
It seems like just, for the talking, getting to know you a little bit in San Diego, and then now just in our short conversation so far, it seems like you're very natural to this position, like in terms of who you are innately seems to cross over very easily. Did you think of that in terms of like when you were younger? Was this something that not that you maybe thought Mall of America? I mean, you might have, I don't know. But I'm just saying, like, did you see yourself based on what you enjoyed doing when you were in high school or even younger, or, whenever it inspired you to start thinking about what you wanted to do as a career?
Yeah.
Were these, did it occur to you to be this, or were you like, okay, I'm going to be an astronaut? Like, I mean, what were you thinking?
Oh, that's a really great question. I honestly, I feel like a lot of kids probably say this. I was so dedicated to animals growing up. I thought I would be a vet. I thought that was an angle that I was really interested in. I'm just very passionate in that field. And then I realized, science wasn't my strong suit. And so having to pivot and learn, it wasn't until maybe my junior or senior year of college when I was going through the internship programs, and a lot of the programs came out to be more marketing focused. And that's what really aligned and showcased to me that that was something I was good at. That was something I was interested in. And I pursued it from there. I think it was a natural progression, but something that I didn't purposely seek out. So I think that makes it a little bit more fun in the long
Yeah,
run.
you said- Did were was the reason you were sort of going towards it, it's kind of naturally towards this, is because who you are for this position, the types of skills that you need to use, those were the skills that you had with your friends even, or in life in general, like they sort of crossed over naturally to be a part of this.
Absolutely. So one thing that sticks out to me as we're having this conversation is problem solving. I think that when we talk about that day to day, and I was mentioning, one, you start your day thinking you're going this angle, and then it turns to end up, in a completely different realm. Is problem solving is it's just continuing to troubleshoot through your day and what you need to do to make sure that you're getting from one thing to the next, but also having those solutions to get there. So I feel like as an adolescent, even through college, I was always that problem solver. What can we do to make this better, or how do we fix it? How do we get to that next step efficiently without, people freaking out, or, just go through it calmly? Sometimes easier said than done, but that was something that really stuck out to me. And that's where I feel like marketing aligned with me on that front. Everything's a problem solving. Everything has a solution for the most part. So how do we navigate that? And that felt really appealing to me.
Well, and you mentioned when you said sort of came, after through your career, and now you're in at Mall of America, and which fashion or retail is your passion.
Yeah.
But would you consider, because when you're talking Mall of America, yes, it's a lot of retail, but at the
Mhm.
same point, it's not. Mall of America itself isn't, as you said, it's an amusement park. It's all these stores. It's all of the mix of things. So is that person who is looking to get into retail, is whether it be Mall of America or another mall or another, place, is that something where they'll get that fulfillment? I mean, you're finding, I know I'm not questioning that you truly
Yeah.
love your job, that's obvious, but I'm just saying, is that person who really wants to be in retail, is it necessarily maybe they should still focus on that individual brand or store?
No, that's a great question. And I think of retail as a constantly evolving space. I mean, obviously, Mall of America, to your point, we're an anomaly. Our motto is, shop, dine, stay, play. We really have it all under our roof. But if people are interested in retail, I have so many friends and, previous colleagues that have gone into that direct retail route where they work for specific retailers, and they love it. They have great success with it. And again, like I said, I think especially over the pandemic, retailers have evolved in such a beautiful way, adding on those digital elements and e-commerce. And so if someone is of interest in going that retail route specifically, there are so many great opportunities. Even if it's not a mall, working directly for the retailers is a great opportunity.
And maybe it's a starting point, and then if you want to expand
Yeah.
and then go to a mall. But I think also having worked in, maybe you didn't work in, a Gap or something like that, but working in the restaurant that you started as more of a startup, that gives you that, what all of your tenants are doing, like, what they're experiencing. And so then I'm assuming that must help you in your overall position to sort of
Yeah.
help promote all of them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Spot on. It really does.
Okay, now this I think will be a fun question to ask you. I like to ask, if you could live in any era,
Uh-huh.
when would it be and why?
I feel like this might be amusing to you. I would go back to the 70s. I think the retailer in me, or the retail, driven individual, the aesthetic, the vibe of the 70s. I think the nonchalant aspect, it was very hippie at the time. I think that it appears to have been such a beautiful era. Obviously, there's a lot of nuances to it, but I think at the very base level, from the look, the clothing, the aesthetic of how people held themselves, I think the 70s would be a great time.
Yeah, it's funny. 70s is a popular, like, people, that tends to be what people are going for. And
Yep.
it's funny because I feel like the 70s, like, when you look back on things, sometimes people are like, ooh, the 70s, especially, like, disco was questionable. Like, sometimes
Uh-huh.
you have these people who are like, disco, love it, and then others who are more that grunge or that
Yep.
hippie or whatever. Which would you be?
Oh my gosh, I would probably go more of the hippie route. I don't know if I would be as much grunge, but I admire all the different pieces to what the 70s brought to the table, like you're describing. There were so many different components. I feel like there was truly something for everyone at the time.
No glitter and
I don't know if I would go the glitter route, but I do enjoy the flared pants and the crochet and macrame style. I thought that was really fun.
yeah, no, it is. I think, and then for a while there, some of the stores were selling those platform, like, boots, but that were vinyl or whatever. I don't know, whatever they were made of.
Yeah.
It's like I would look at them, I'm like, ooh, I want them. Like, I'm like, where can I wear them? But it was like they were so cool.
Lisa, they're still in style. I mean, they're still on trend. If you're interested still, I
I feel
mean,
like people would be
South
like,
America, we'll go shopping.
okay, grandma, let's get those off, like,
People do
you're not
not think
playing
that.
anymore. Just like when I was talking with Forever 21, I feel like, okay, It's, maybe
I feel like as long as you believe in yourself, I think it's all a mindset. I think that's what matters.
I can rock these platforms.
Yes, I believe you could.
Okay, well, we'll think about that a little bit.
Okay.
So, now going through all, like, you know, with your work that you do, and it doesn't even have to be in your career, but I mean, obviously, all of us, we sort of have mentors that we look to and
Yeah.
people who help us along the way. But I feel like there's always sort of inspirations too, people who inspire us. And sometimes that is maybe a boss that you've had or a coworker or whatever. Or sometimes that might be just another person that how they acted is what inspired you to do certain things that and make you who you are. Is
Yeah.
there anyone in your life like that? Or what happened in your life?
I should say I've had such great experiences with the individuals that I've worked with professionally and otherwise, but I think from, a personal and professional standpoint, I don't know if this is a common answer, but my parents were so fantastic. My dad worked for Wells Fargo for over 35 years. More in that financial route. He was very dedicated, really did the grind, and I mean, people like that don't exist anymore. People don't stay with a company, through the duration of their life. And it was very, it's admirable. And I think there's so many wonderful things that I took away from his mentality of working for an organization in that duration. And then my mom is a special needs teacher. So it's interesting to get, the softness from one versus the other, but they both balance so well. And I think developing and growing, I've taken both of their perspectives in both not only the professional career, but also personal with them as a parent, that I've realized I've taken that into my professional and personal life as well. That I think that you can be direct, but still, have empathy, that you can still, take these key pieces and apply them in different ways. So I always think my parents, again, mentors, there's been so many wonderful people in my life, but my parents, I think, have definitely shed the best light on a lot of different categories of life.
Yeah, I'm curious when you, because when you talk about your father and in terms of, he had the same job as you said for his,
Mhm,
his whole life, or at least most of it, in terms of he stuck with the same place. I think, and that is admirable. My dad was the same, but
mhm.
I'm curious, we don't see it as much today, and especially in our industry.
Yeah.
When you're talking marketing and prior to this, as journalism, um, you look at, I mean, you look at these resumes of very successful people. You go to LinkedIn and
Mhm.
they've had multiple jobs, and
Yeah.
it's not about, sometimes you think about, oh, it's the flake who kind of goes from job to job, but it's not. It tends to be part of our industry. Do
Yep.
you think that's a positive, or especially for someone who is, again, I like to think that anyone watching might learn from it as they're starting out, and to be open to these, changing these jobs,
Yeah.
and obviously we have to be if we're not getting what we want, but is that something that I guess is a standard today that we now need to expect, as opposed to hoping for that one job that you're going to be a lifer at?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different components to it, and I think it's consistently evolving. I think coming in, when I came into the workforce about 10 years ago, it still had that mentality of not hopping around. Make sure that you're staying at a company at the very minimum for 3 to 5 years. But to your point, it's really changed a lot. But I also think the industry's changed a lot, to your point too, and that we need fresh perspectives, and people have great experiences. And Minneapolis is a retail hub. So we have Best Buy, we have Target, we have these other, really influential spaces or organizations in Minneapolis, that we would love insights from individuals who have worked there. So I don't think that, in my personal opinion, I don't see that as a negative, um, for people who are, not bouncing around, but exploring different opportunities in different spaces. And also during the pandemic, we've really seen people evolve and open new roles.
Yep.
And I think that offers an opportunity for a lot of people to explore different things. So I do think it's a nuanced piece. Don't hop around too much. Don't just continue to do a year at each place, but also leave the door open and continue to explore. And as your passions change as a human, and a professional, continue to navigate those and
Yeah,
explore different
no, I
options.
agree. I think that today, when employers are can see it as an asset, if people are moving in the right direction and they're knowing what they want and needing to, okay, we need to move on to the next, and again, gaining perspective from each of those companies. But so I don't think today it's as you said, when you were first starting out, maybe it was more of a negative, that
Yeah.
why has this person been to, 4 different places in the last 6 years, that kind of thing. So I think we're definitely seeing that different. Well, before we finish up, I want to ask you, which after we've been speaking so much about marketing, if you couldn't be a marketer, what do you think you'd be?
I would have to go circling all the way back. I would have to go back to something that's more pet driven. I would probably do a nonprofit, or I'd be looking at something alternative that's very animal focused. I have so much passion in that area, and if I had to, drop my marketing role today, I would navigate probably into more of that pet focused space or nonprofit space.
Well, you can count me in. I will be your first employee hire.
Fabulous, Lisa. Let's do it.
Partners, because I'm the same way. I wanted to be a vet too until I realized they would actually die, and I would be just a basket case every day. So that for me, and the science thing was also a hitch too. So the combo of it all just it kind of made it. Well, maybe that's not the go-to job for me.
Yes, yeah.
But
I feel the same way.
so anyway, Sarah, thank you so much. This is really a pleasure. I really appreciate you taking the time and talking with me.
Thank you so much, Lisa. It's been fantastic.
Great. And thank you. We appreciate you watching. And if there's anyone, any marketer, woman marketer who you are so impressed with or just want to hear more about, let me know and I will do my best to get her